So there's been a lot of news dropping regarding physical media, especially in the video game space, with the announcement of Sony discontinuing discs going forward in 2028. So PlayStation are going to refactor all their manufacturing plants from that used to produce discs. I think they set up to 600,000 discs a day to now transitioning over to developing micro lenses or macro lenses or whatever it might be, something that has to do with specific data centers, I guess. But meanwhile, while all that news and everything was going on, a little leak and rumor kind of fell over to The Verge that they announced an article saying that there's concrete details that Microsoft is putting out a disc to digital program, which kind of seems like, look, from the surface, it's not something I necessarily love. Obviously, we all know that Xbox is kind of like the unspoken rule, unspoken secret that is going to happen, is that the Project Helix and the next console is going to not have a disc drive. So obviously, Xbox has done a lot of things to help progress backwards compatibility, especially more so than Sony, where you had the whole backwards compatibility program. Obviously, with the Xbox One to Series X, that stuff is pretty much like, I would say 95%, 97% of the library is backwards compatible. But if we look at the 360, it's somewhere around, I think, 650 games. And then obviously the original Xbox, the OG Xbox, there's only 60 games. But obviously there's been a lot of rumors and speculation going around over the past few months, especially when we heard in GDC that there was talks of revitalizing the program, bringing it back up and bringing some more Xbox original games over, especially with all the moves and the things that are happening behind the scenes. That seems to be that the next Xbox and Project Helix being this console PC hybrid. So obviously we all know that it's no longer going to have a disc drive. It's kind of like, while PlayStation has openly said it, Xbox is kind of coasting with that knowledge, but I feel like Xbox doesn't really have to say it until they announce the new console that they're not going to do this. Instead, I think they're going to have to utilize the good PR that is kind of given to them in terms of this circumstance of having this disc to digital thing, which honestly, in a way, I don't necessarily love it, but it's not a bad thing either. Basically, hey, we can now take our physical games, make them into a digital project, similar to what we see with movies, for example, or DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever, where you can have the actual movie on the disc and then you have the digital code where you can watch it virtually anywhere you want. This is not going to be like that, is my supposition, where basically the disc is still going to have all the data and everything on there, and it's going to essentially be this physical disc that uses some sort of unique security metadata that grants your profile a digital license to that specific disc. Now, the moment that you trade that in, or you give it to a buddy, or you sell it or whatever, the moment somebody then takes that disc, puts it in and ties that digital license to their account, it is now removed off yours. It's actually a pretty cool system, and I actually think it's a good way to go forward. And the cool thing about this is once it's digitized, even if the game supports Xbox Play Anywhere, you can now play it on PC, you can play it on cloud gaming. You no longer have to buy it twice, which is honestly a pretty cool thing that you're able to do, especially if you have a handheld device like me with the Steam Deck, or if you have the ROG Ally devices. You can now take that physical game, tie it to your account, and then play it on all your different devices. The one sucky thing, like I said, that comes to all this is that most likely they're also not going to be producing a disc anymore. Now, this would be an awesome program if they continued the development of discs. That'd be cool, because then we can still have it physically. You can then port it over to all your different platforms. But quite honestly, I think the writing's on the wall, especially with this program coming out and the news of Sony. It's pretty much the end. And as you can see here, I do have a little bit of a collection right behind me, but so I'm a little disappointed. And I usually try to get any big release that I'm really excited for, really pumped for, and I utilize doesitplay.com, which is a website where you can go and check and see if the full data is on the physical media itself. I usually try to get everything physical if I can, especially if it's older games. But it does seem it's going to kind of suck. I wish that they would have this program, but still continue to release physical media. And maybe they will. Maybe that's the little bit of the copium that I'm inhaling right now. But most likely this means it's kind of the end. The good thing about all this, though, is that it does seem like the disc still matters. It still seems like whatever you have in terms of whatever game, whatever thing you have physically, is still going to have a physical aspect of it, similar to what we see with the Nintendo Switch 2 with the game key cards, where you can take this key card, you can give it to somebody else, they now can use it, even though the data is not on the the actual cartridge itself, it still kind of moves the thing, but we still run into the issues like what happens when the servers shut down? What happens if you can no longer access those games anymore? Because a lot of these discs or cartridges for that matter only have a portion of the game, or sometimes the games are released so broken and so buggy that like, sure, you can have the game on there, the whole thing, but you need those day one patches or like the patches 6 months later. Cyberpunk's one notorious of this. If you actually get the PS4 Xbox One version of Cyberpunk and don't update it, you get that original version of Cyberpunk that everybody hated because of all the issues that it had, all the performance problems, all the bugs and everything. But the moment you update it, it gets updated. Obviously this is like the non-ultimate edition. The ultimate edition was able to include everything in there, but it's kind of a prime example of, man, this is why you need to complete, especially single player games, finish the game. But I want to get into some quotes here that I got from the article. Basically what they're saying is kind of reiterating what I've already said, that this digital entitlement is tied to specific disc and will move from account to account if you swap the physical game with a friend or log into a different Xbox profile and try to connect and try to play disc-based game. Now, let's talk about what is the limitations of this program. Obviously, we all know there's going to be limitations to this one way or another, and basically what they're saying is a generation limit. There's no major detail from the link, but the program currently only supports Xbox One and Xbox Series S disc. It does not include OG Xbox and 360. They say a lot of this has to do to the constraints of licensing with the emulator itself and some of the hardware constraints, because I guess something about the architecture of the original Xbox and the 360 is just very, very complicated. And it's one of the reasons why emulators as a whole, if we look at, I think it's Xenia is one of them, and then I can't remember what the other 360 one is. It's a reason why a lot of those two consoles are very, very hard to emulate. So that being one of them, and then obviously licensing, which has been the bane of the existence when it comes to backwards compatibility, especially a lot of like, I just picked up Transformers War of Cybertron, and you can only play that there because of licensing problems. So, and that was one thing that kind of held back the backwards compatibility program a couple years ago, and why they had to eventually shut it down is that they felt that they reached that limit. I don't know if they can reignite that, and that's what I'm saying. We're still going to wait and see how things are going to play out, but not having the ability to use 360 or OG Xbox games, even games that are already backwards compatible on the Series X, I don't necessarily understand why can't you just utilize those same mechanisms that they're using in those discs to figure out that, hey, this is what this game is, and then tie it to that. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Maybe this is just purely tied to the games that have data that they can actually read and play off of, versus like the 360 games. They're not really like the games, they're not really taking the data off those discs. They're kind of just saying like, oh, this is this game, he has this game, and then downloading it from the actual Xbox or Microsoft store. And even then, we talk about how Xbox One is going to be involved in this program. There's still going to be some specific quirks, and they said it depends on how and when the disc was manufactured when it comes to Xbox One, because I don't know if people already know this, but certain Xbox One, early Xbox One discs are actually not backwards compatible with the Series X. Something with the way that those specific discs were manufactured in the beginning of that generation. So that's why I was saying like about 90 to 95%, probably like 95 to 97% of Xbox One games are actually backwards compatible with that last 3%, with some little quirks there. And here's another quote I wanted to bring up too. They said, discs will still work after they're digitalized. You'll only lose the digital entitlement if you loan the disc to a friend or sell the disc to somebody else. Kind of like what I was mentioning. So it's still going to work. A lot of people thought they were going to absolutely brick it and it was just going to be a useless piece of like material, but kind of what I was saying, it's still going to be there. You can even still use it in your previous older consoles like I have here, the Xbox Series X. So that's good to hear, because I know like during the Xbox One generation, there was a lot of talk of like, hey, no sharing games. Obviously, that led to the whole fiasco and the terrible launch of that console as a whole. Now, they do say Microsoft is currently testing this new feature internally, and we expect to hear more about this in the coming months. I anticipate they're going to want to try to get this out before the end of the year. I think they're going to want to have this ready and people testing and having it into their own like PCs or their own consoles before the new series, whatever comes out, or the Project Helix, because as we've seen, especially with the Xbox mode and full screen experience on PCs, is that it looks like Xbox and Microsoft is trying to, in the Windows team specifically, trying to optimize and get ready for this new console for whenever it come out. And I think this is going to be another one of those things. Just like with the Xbox mode, this is going to be another program where they're kind of experimenting with. Now, my hope is that eventually they do some sort of attachment add-on or some sort of thing you can buy. That would be cool. I just don't know how realistic that is. I mean, shoot, I'd be okay with third-party options if they allow like third parties to like, hey, you can buy a third-party disk drive and you can put this in here and you can digitize games. That would be cool. But one thing for sure is that they've definitely left a reason for people to hold on to their older, especially Series X. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it with an Xbox One, maybe an Xbox One. So that is going to be one reason why I think a lot of people, it's going to be beneficial, especially if a large collection, which are most likely going to be the people that are going to keep their consoles anyways, to kind of keep those older ones to do this program, especially for their older games. Or if you want to go like bargain bin hopping at GameStop, you still have your old ones that you can digitize to or whatnot. But nonetheless, I mean, I hope it would be cool if you can get some sort of third-party option, or if not a first-party option of a disk drive that you could attach to it. Like I said, overall, this is the best news we can get in terms of game preservation and what that can mean for the future of the physical media and making sure that it's remaining intact, at least for this current generation. We don't know what's going to happen as things go forward. Obviously, it looks like more and more we're heading towards this all digital future, but I do think eventually, maybe this is the optimist in me, is that there's going to be some sort of niche like element of it, whether it be like limited run or something like that, where, you know, they're still going to be able to produce that. You can still like have this thing, and as long as Xbox supports this program for a long period of time, maybe there's going to be hope for having some sort of element of physical media-esque to the video game space. So, I mean, to kind of wrap up this video, I mean, it pretty much seems like with Sony basically forcing the digital future by killing this, Xbox kind of is trying to help build a better bridge to this next way. So even though both companies are heading towards the same direction, it does seem like Xbox, and the one thing is, with all the gripes and issues that they've had and the controversies that they've been involved in, one of the things you can't take away from them is that they've done a pretty decent job in backwards compatibility, and I do think they're going to continue that, and all signs point to them kind of building this bridge out to help transition people from physical to digital. It just sucks that most likely the reason that they're doing this is that they can no longer have to make these things. So let me know what you think in the comments down below of all this news and the Just Digital program and what this means. Like I said, I think it's not a bad idea for the inevitable future. I do like the idea that we can digitize some of these games. I just know that basically it means that they're no longer going to offer them anymore. I wish that they would continue to offer it with also the ability to digitize, like I said, basically what we see with movies and Blu-rays and even music for that matter. It's like you can buy vinyls that come with digital codes or CDs or whatever it might be. So it does kind of suck you can no longer do that. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.